This is my HO railroad, which is not a very serious railroad, but it can be run with a regular operating session. And I used what I had. I bought some things and kits, but I want to show you some of the systems that I made. Homemade systems that I made and how I made them, and just to give you some ideas. I didn't worry about getting too prototypical. As you can see, this has snap switches, a lot of kit building. Some of them are kit bashed or made from scratch, but first thing is my Liftout Bridge here. When I first installed it, 2 or 3 trains hit the floor when it wasn't on, and I didn't realize it. So I installed a safety system using push-button switches. There's one installed right here, and in the opposite corner on the other side, there's another one. And whenever the bridge is put in, these will cut power to the track approximately a foot in either direction from the bridge. So if the train's barreling down a line, it'll stop about here, and it'll never make it to the bridge if the bridge is not in. Very simple system, but very effective. Now I've taken the bridge out, and when the train comes it will stop just about where the station is. My yard is a downhill yard so that I can push cars into it, but I wanted to be able to hit one button to select my route for whichever track I wanted. I used doorbell buttons, and all my blocks use regular house switches. But for the wiring of the yard, I had to use diodes, because after the second or third switch you start getting a lot of sneak circuits, and the diodes are just little things that prevent the electricity from going backwards and getting where it's not supposed to be, because all sorts of funny things will start happening when you push a button, when there's all kinds of sneak circuits, and the wiring is just a nightmare under there. It took me a couple days to figure that out, and I can't really lift it high enough to show you, but it works good. Under the layout over here, there's a large power pack that feeds those, is only there to feed those switches. In the steel factory here, there is a number of parts on it that came from a car. That is some kind of bushing. That is the brush assembly out of a Volkswagen alternator. That is a coolant pipe out of a Volkswagen Jetta. That's a part out of an old TV. The fan is from a heat gun, a Black & Decker heat gun, and so is this stack. There are cabinet hinge magnets, cabinet door magnets, and the whole plant is made out of poster board with a wooden frame. But I have lights for the truck doors, the loading doors, and they are LEDs which are powered by a battery, and I wanted them to come on when I turned my main switch on for the layout. So what I did is I used a fuel pump relay out of a Volkswagen, and all you need to do is hook up a 12-volt adapter to power the relay, so that when you turn the switch on, it energizes the relay, and that turns on the battery power for the LEDs. You can hear the relay click on and off as I turn the power on and off to the layout. Now there's no water in it right now, but this plant has running water like a little stream that flows from one building to the other. And what that is a PVC pipe cut in half. And underneath here, there's a Cool Whip container that would be full of water, and there's a submersible pump in there. And the PVC tube runs from there to there. And this pipe here is actually a clear hose that recirculates the water back over into this building and down right into the trough again. Next thing are these signal bridges. Now this is definitely not a prototypical signal system, but it's a very simple signal system that has a red and green light for each track on the switch. Like I have one track goes straight sort of, and the other one goes to the left. Well, on the left there's a red and green, and on the right there's a red and green. And when the switch is thrown to go back on the right, you'll have a green light for that, and vice versa. And the way I make it work is, here are my buttons to change the turnout, but also there's an additional relay under here. It's an Atlas snap relay. There's one for this side too. There's another signal bridge here that does the same thing. So there's two of them here, and when I hit that button up there, it throws this relay and the solenoid for the switch. And that relay goes, the signals change, and I don't know how well you can see it, but and those are actually just little tiny light bulbs. This camera doesn't get close enough, but I just wired them up in there, and you almost don't even notice the wiring inside the gantry, but it works really well. Right now it would be set to go straight, and if I want to go left, I switch, and now it says it's green on the left. Now I only have one reverse loop on this system, and this layout is old school. I mean, it's block system with toggles, and I have two switches, two turnouts to throw, this being one of them. And when I throw that, it causes this crossing signal to flash back here, since it's the only time the train will ever cross there. Now you can see it's flashing. And when I switch it back to the main line, it stops. That is accomplished by having a little copper wire, and you probably won't be able to see it with this camera, but there's a small wire bent around, and there's a nail disguised that comes up out of the bottom of the layout. And when the relay throws, there's a little hand lever that slides back and forth, and when it does, it pushes that little copper wire against the nail, and that's what activates the signals. Behind this mountain I have a turnout that I can't see. It's way back there, and from over here you can't see it. So it goes into this little industry here. But I wanted a way to make sure I knew that the turnout was on the main line so I didn't derail trains. So when I switch that off the main line onto the siding, this little LED starts to flash on the panel to let me know that the switch is not set to the main line. And that's made exactly the same way with that nail sticking out and the little copper wire that pushes against it. I could have done something like that with an additional snap relay like I did over here with the signals, but these were done long before that and it works just fine. Now, the last thing I want to show you is my turntable. This is a homemade turntable. It has no motor, it's hand powered. There's a little wheel on the bottom here that you just turn and line it up where you want it. Very simple. But the way I powered the track on the table, the walls inside the pit here are sheet metal, and they're divided here in the middle, so it's two separate poles. And there's a wire soldered to each one of these in the back. And on the outside of the table itself that turns, there's a wire like a hook shape that just rubs against the pit walls. In fact, you can probably see the scrape marks, but it works just flawlessly. And the reason this is divided here is that as the table turns, your polarity needs to change to match the track because you're going to be facing the opposite direction. So it just automatically changes that. Then there's a toggle switch for each one of the tracks here. Since the yard is on a downslope, in order to get the buildings level, I just took poster board and made foundations for them, painted it to look like concrete, and glued it to the side for that one and this one up here. But that's pretty much it. Hopefully this gave you some good ideas.